This video was produced back in 2006. I've recently reworked it and put some of my new artwork at the end. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. My process when it comes to actually creating a painting has not only been what I've explained before about the subject inspiring me and maybe the fundamentals of what's before me, but when I create a painting in terms of mass. So there's no lines created on a painting. I don't draw the painting out. The painting is created in mass. So I mass in these shapes. And by massing in these shapes, I try to decide where the painting's going at that time. And I like that fundamental challenge of having a limited amount of time and being able to respond to that moment. The sun doesn't stop. The sun's always moving. So when you visually see something, you have to respond to that moment quickly and fast. And my methods and my approach are all based on speed and the directness and that bravura in my work to capture that moment. The flow and when you're creating is essential. And another way we could talk about it is in the zone, where you get into this creative zone and the time stops, the world stops. You don't notice anything around you. I mean, you're focused on the subject and the painting itself. And the zone happens to me often, if not every time I paint. It's a tough thing when it happens sometimes, because being in the zone, in that creative zone, when the world stops and maybe quantum, physics take over in some way, but you have to be able to pull out of it at times. And I've learned to pull out of it so that I can step back for a moment and assess the painting and look at it, and then almost like walking through a wall, as I get closer to the painting, I step back into that zone. About the closest thing I can relate it to is when I paint sometimes, it's like having a lucid dream where you know it's a dream and you're taking control of the dream. And when you get in that point, when you're able to do that, that's special. And that happens to me at times when I paint. When I mass things in and when I block them in, I can be looking at either the value of masses and how they all relate. So in other words, if there's several things that relate in terms of value, I can mass those in. But if there are other things that relate in terms of color, I can block those in. And then beyond that, I can actually I'll actually maybe use a particular color to create a harmony with the work. I've spent years and years developing different methods and different approaches and studying different artists. And those things have always come through in my work. The discipline and the amount of work I've put in developing that craftsmanship and that rapport with paint by always addressing new issues, I think has really benefited me in many, many ways. So when I refine a painting, a lot of it is all about how these shapes read and how these things fall in place and how to capture depth with a painting. Is the painting going to be about brush strokes? Is it going to be about just shapes and masses and how those masses interact? Is it going to be about colors and the relationship of those colors? So I have many dimensions that I can fall into, and spending those years in developing that skill level has been really a big plus for me, in that I can call on so many things that come and help me address a painting. Lately I've been into a thicker grayish, but yet with some rich color combined with that brush stroke that I use. So lately those are some of the things I'm exploring more with my paint, is interpreting things in terms of the thickness of paint and how those things relate in a painting and how they come together. how do I know when I'm finished with a painting is a tough one at times, because and I approach that so different in so many ways. There are times when I'm after a certain effect that's going to require a lot of long hours to achieve that effect. There are times when I've tried to get the perfect brushstroke, and and that can go on for a long time. But what makes it perfect? What makes that brushstroke finished? When does the piece look finished? Because when you look at my paintings, you're not going to see that they all have a sameness feel, a finished level. There's going to be an assortment to that. And I love that variety in life and in my work.